Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Drew back again with another video for all you American soccer fans out there. And in this one, we're going to be going over the USA's 1-0 win against Costa Rica and Greg Berhalter's first game in charge for the second year in a row. Does that make sense? Yeah, that makes sense. So basically, in this video, I'm going to give you guys my quick reaction or my thoughts on how I think the USA looked and did against Costa Rica and how I think the youth looked in this game, especially some certain youth players I feel did better than most, than the other ones. So in this video, that's what we're going to talk about. But before we do, as always, be sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below to help soccer grow here in America. Because if my channel gets bigger, then me trying to help soccer in America just gets bigger, right? You know, it makes sense. So think about it. And while you're down there, be sure you hit that like button as well. So like I said in my preview video the other day on this for this game, was that I was really excited to see, you know, this kind of players called up by Greg Berhalter for this friendly game against Costa Rica. And, you know, it was mostly basically all MLS players because, you know, it's not really a FIFA calendar international break. So, you know, teams around the world in the big leagues are not going to want to let any of their players go. Doesn't matter what country it's for, just for a friendly game in a non-FIFA international friendly. So we were stuck mostly with some kind of experienced national team players like Sebastian Lletget, Sean Johnson, Yazi Zardes. And the rest of them were mostly youth products of the MLS. And that was actually very, very interesting to see and interesting to think about and wonder how they were going to do against Costa Rica when the majority of the starting 11 against Costa Rica in this game were unexperienced. We had players like Brendan Aronson. We had players like freaking Sam Vines, Uly Llanez, like Jesus Ferreira getting his first cap and his first, you know, time on the field for any USA national team level, I believe. So that was actually very, very exciting to see. Right off the bat, let me talk about, you know, I'm going to break down some of the players real quick. The first player I really got to talk about that impressed me the most was Uly Llanez. This guy playing on the left flank winger. He was all over the place. He was in attacking sense. He was coming back to defend. He was going down through the middle, cutting back, you know, getting in behind the defense. He was really a danger to Costa Rica for the whole game that he was playing. I think he was subbed out, you know, late in the second half for Jonathan Lewis. He got a standing, you know, he got a good, you know, ovation from the crowd, which by the way was freaking dead, and we'll talk about that in a second. You know, he did good. He scored the only game of the match, his first game on his debut for the national team. He scored. Of course, it was just a penalty, but what a beautiful penalty it was. You know, Reggie Cannon trying to get into a tag, winning that penalty for Uly Llanez, and that was very good to see. You know, I was really excited because, you know, besides Llanez, I was wondering, you know, who else would take this penalty for the USA, and I'm really glad that it was Llanez because I feel like he deserved he deserved the goal because he was primarily the player who stood out the most to me in the attacking sense going forward for the USA. So that was really interesting to see. Jesus Ferreira, I think, had a decent game. Nothing too extravagant, nothing too bad. He was decent. Maybe some first day jitters or nerves, but he was fine. You know, Jackson Ewell, of course, the heart of that midfield back there with Sebastian Lletget and Brendan Aronson, who I think, by the way, Brendan Aronson had a really good game as well. Right alongside Jackson Ewell, I think these two players are going to be pivotal to USA midfield formations going forward. You know, the USA is really has an abundance of youth products in the midfield, especially defensive midfielders like, you know, Tyler Adams, Winston McKinney, Jackson Ewell, now Brendan Aronson. Like, these players all in the midfield seem to be shaping up a good midfield for the national team, and that excites me because I'm a big believer that having a good midfield means you're going to have a good team, you know, because the midfield can come back and support you on defense, or the midfield is going to basically be the heart of the attacking, like starting the attack. It all starts probably from the midfield, at least mostly from the midfield. I just feel like that's where you get the most out of your players. Who else are we going to talk about? Let's see. Sam Vines, I didn't really know too much about going into this game, but watching him on the field, shoot, I think this guy did tremendous. Him and Reggie Cannon as the fullbacks, absolutely wonderful. They were getting into the opponent's box, trying to get up there, always being a threat, always making that overlapping run. I was impressed the whole time. Sean Johnson really didn't have too many things to make. I think Costa Rica only had 2 shots on target to USA's 5 shots on target. So Sean Johnson really didn't have the most active game. The same thing as Bill Hamid, who was subbed on later that game. The keepers really didn't have much to do, which is a good sign because that means the USA was doing its part and, you know, keeping Costa Rica off balance, keeping them missing their shots, or keeping them from making their shots and keep them to make them miss them. I fucked up. I'm not gonna restart. Who cares? We're too deep in this already. Who cares? Walker Zimmerman, Aaron Long. I think they had a pretty solid day. What I was really glad to see Bill Hamid make an appearance at least for a couple minutes. Glad to see Mark McKenzie play. Glad to see Chase Gasper get in there towards the end of the half. Brandon Cervani from FC Dallas as well. Excited to see how he was going to do. I think he did pretty okay for the most part from when he was subbed on. Then Yazzie Zardes, of course, played. But, does anybody really care? Does anybody really care? No, I don't think so. But nonetheless, the big talking point of the whole thing, or the big thing that really caught my attention this whole game, is not how the players played. It's not the way Greg Berhalter set us up. Because I think, for the most part, Greg Berhalter got the lineup pretty well. And he set us up pretty good against Costa Rica. A Costa Rica side who really wasn't that strong. They didn't have big, strong players there like Joe Campbell, whatever. It was kind of, I think, maybe their C team. It was a veteran team, but mostly like a C team. Costa Rica, and that's fine with me. I don't care. I think the kids did really good in this game. But like I said, the thing that really caught my eye wasn't the players, wasn't the manager, wasn't the tactics. It was the fans. It was the stadium, how empty it was. I believe the capacity, I believe the total number of people there was around 9,000. And if you look back at other games the USA has played, especially in LA, that's in over like 12,000 fans. Like, their people are showing up. And right now, it was low. Like, it was really, really low. You can see how many empty seats. If you look back at any highlights, look at the background of the chairs. Obviously, I can't post any highlights here because I'll get freaking copyrighted and get taken down. And your boy Drew doesn't want that. But if you look back at the highlights, look at the stands. Look how empty it is. Like, I wish I bought a ticket. If I bought a ticket at the top tier, my ass would have, by the end of the game, I would have been down in the front. Because who's going to stop me? No one's sitting there. The crowd was absolutely pathetic. And if you guys are watching this, if any of you guys went to that game, let me know down below how the atmosphere was. Was the crowd hype? Was the crowd like super dead like I think it was? How it looked it was? Because I'm curious, could it be a sign that, USA soccer fans are kind of going on strike almost against the U.S. Soccer Federation? The Greg Berhalter chance, the Ernie Stewart out chance. Like, is that a way that, a hidden way that we can get to them with them hearing us? Because, if we retweet Greg Berhalter out or Ernie Stewart out, no one's going to care, But if we're attacking their pockets, then they'll fucking care. If we're not watching on TV, if we're not showing up to the games, then it becomes an issue. Then it becomes something they can't ignore. But right now, talking about, the other day, one of my friends asked me, like, do you like the manager for USA? And I answered honestly, you know what? I feel like I haven't seen enough of him to really judge and want him to lose his job. So, for all you Greg Berhalter out fans, I'm not, the biggest fan of him, but I'm also not the biggest hater. I think this year is going to be the biggest test for him. He's got Nations League. He's got, what's it called? World Cup qualifying. He's got big games coming up this year. So I feel like if the USA has not improved, or I feel like USA is still stagnant under Greg Berhalter, then I would be in the camp where I want him out. And I want him out before we lose any more games in the Hex, if that ever happens. But that's whatever. The fan support looks pretty horrendous in that game, so I'll have to admit. But that's pretty much it. Not really much to say on this game. Just a friendly. Both teams playing their C teams, but what was exciting was really to see how our youth was doing, and I feel like they're progressing really well. I think Uly Llanez is going to be a tremendous player, possibly in the Olympics, who knows, for the USA, but also, hopefully, for later on in big games like the Nations League and the World Cup qualifying, which are coming up later this year. And I'm hoping that he is at least on the bench for those kind of games when the big players come to play for those games. So that's all I really have to say. I was kind of, I enjoyed the game. I think it was good. Obviously it was just 1-0, but I think I had a good time watching and seeing how these players are developing and see what kind of players we have here at our disposal. So that's really good. But as always, let me know your thoughts down below on what you guys thought the game was, and let me know your thoughts down below on how you think our youth products did. So, as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.